these are the 12 things that causes a crash, and here's how to protect yourself from it. And I want to say, stop worrying about a crash. Anytime we have a pullback, I know Tesla dropped 34% and some change, but there is no upside reward without some downside risk. But number one, overinflated bubbles bursting. So anytime that a market gets too hot or too frothy, at some point those bubbles will burst. And if you're wondering when a bubble is going to burst in the industry that you're looking at, you need to go study the entire history of that particular market to get context for how long or how many decades you have until that bubble will burst. Number two, so in 2008, we had over-leveraging. And when you had mortgage-backed securities and exotic tranches and things and all kind of derivatives being thrown around, it leads to people leveraging and taking on more risk that is necessary. And it ends up damaging the system. So that's the second reason that a bubble can burst or cause a crash. Number three, when you have banking panics or monetary contraction. So if you have a run on the bank, that is the third reason that a crash could happen. So we haven't had any banks at scale being funds being liquidated from customers. So we're fine. No extreme monetary contraction. So we technically are in a safe zone. Number four, decreased lending. So whenever you start to see that banks and financial institutions are lending at a slower pace, it is usually a sign that the market is going to crash, because they then want to protect the capital that they have in their reserves and on their books. Be mindful of that. So when we're telling you to do your research, these are things that you need to go look at, and you need to spend an hour a day researching. And I've been telling everyone at Red Panda, and I'll share with you that you need to spend at least 100 pages a day in terms of your reading time to get a considerable edge in this market, because without it, you are technically gambling. Reddit and Discord groups do not count. So when you have decreased lending, that does lead to a potential crash. Number five, when you are using excessive leverage. So whether at a macro scale or in your own personal account, these are some things, because flash crashes and fat finger trades have happened, and they've caused some damage catastrophically in the system when they were over leveraged or used excessive leverage on a set of particular trades. Number six, interest rates and inflation. And people act as if interest rates and the yield went up to 9.875%. It barely bumped. And in this market, stocks can still rise when bonds yields go up. It doesn't mean that we're going to have a crash as a result, but interest rates and inflation can adjust the market and have a negative effect on it. Number seven, political conflicts and unrest. So anytime that there's political uneasiness, and when we had a prior president that caused some of that civil and political unrest, things were rocky or choppy at times. Number eight, dramatic tax changes. So if taxes go up to 65%, it will have a dramatic effect on the market and how people choose to invest their capital. Number nine, this is key, panic and euphoric pressure from the market. So anytime where a market is too hot and people are saying this thing will never come down, it's going to the moon and it's never going to slide down, that is usually a sign a crash at some point or a deep correction is imminent. Number 10, it could be a combination of these factors. So if you have political unrest with rising interest rates, with excessive euphoria, excessive over leveraging in accounts, it could cause some danger. The one that I'm most fearful of is in maybe 2035, and that's at the time when China should surpass us as the number one superpower, is if our student loan crisis and that student loan bubble pops. I think it would be 3 times as big as the real estate crisis in 2008. Number 12, funds flowing out of a particular industry or sector and into others. Now you're seeing a lot more funds putting money into energy and gas companies. And I'll tell you guys, and I'll address it later, even with the airlines, you have to stop chasing what other funds are chasing and focus on the long-term horizon, because you're not able to get the data in real time when they're executing to get out of a position or sector and get into another.